like a glove. Feel that adrenaline rush. No time.
Happy Saturday and welcome to the Leadoff on the Peak One Sports Network, brought to you by Apogee Grafix, taking your vision to new heights. Go to apogeegrafix.com and use promo code PEAK1 for 10% off your order. I'm Ashton. That's Tony. Landen might be jumping on with us a little bit later, but we're here to get you ready for your sports weekend. Thank you for listening, however you're tuning in. What's going on, Tony?
Man, recouping from a long night last night, a record-breaking night for Friday Night Football.
Yeah, third week in a row, record-breaking ratings. That's why we're doing this remote, if you will, here in the Peak One Sports Studio. It's still a little messy. It was late night doing Friday Night Football. It was great. I thought, let's just, instead of me having to prep all this morning, let's just do this show remote. But exciting night. Like you said, record-breaking ratings, which we had broken last week. On YouTube, comments were doing great. The battle of the wagon wheel for Texas high school football. That's Saginaw High School and Boswell High School. Saginaw getting the win for the first time since 2019. Really good game. Back and forth in the first half. Saginaw won by, I think they ended up winning by, did they score late? I think it was two possessions. Maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Forget the final score, but
Boswell didn't want to go away.
Yeah, they
Boswell
kept it very interesting. Great game. Again, we have Friday Night Football all season long. Chisholm Trail High School, Saginaw High School, Eagle Mountain High School, and the Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD district of teams. So Ross Bates and Dan Boyer were on fire last night. We were in the background producing. So after you're finished watching this episode, maybe go check that out a little bit. And there is Landen, straight from his bedroom. Here is Landen. What's going on, Landen?
What's going on?
Oh, not much. Talking about recouping from Friday Night Football late last night. You were there as well in the second half after you witnessed Joshua's beat down 28-0.
Yeah.
All right. We are going to talk NFL Week 1, get to some college football games. But first, say goodbye to unruly behavior and hello to a well-mannered pup. The Dapper Dog Academy stands out as a top-notch canine training institute located in Cleburne and serving the DFW Metroplex. You can contact Korri and the Dapper Dog Academy on Facebook or call and schedule a consultation today. All the info is in the description box below. All right. Again, thank you for listening to this episode. We're talking NFL and their overreaching powers now having games, or at least opening weekend on Thursday and Friday, taking away a little bit from Friday Night Football. We weren't tuned in, obviously, but we kept up with that game last night. We'll get to that in a second. But on Thursday, the Chiefs take down the Ravens 27-20 in an AFC Championship game rematch. Mahomes, 20 of 28, 291 yards, touchdown, interception. Xavier Worthy, 2 catches, 47 yards and a touchdown. You had Lamar Jackson with 273 passing yards, 122 rushing. And Isaiah Likely with 9 receptions, 111 yards and a touchdown. And he almost had 2 touchdowns. If y'all watched the game, late in the game, he Likely catches a pass in the back of the end zone, which would have tied the game if it would not have been for his toe being out of bounds by, literally a game of inches here.
Yeah.
Reviewed, very clear, no controversy here, very clear call, but what an ending to that game.
If he was wearing white cleats, I don't think they could have overturned that.
That's a good point. It's like a lot of offensive linemen like to wear gloves of whatever the jersey is of the defending team, just so it's harder to catch holding calls.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good point because it was a little obvious. I don't know. I mean, it was clearly over. I don't know. White cleats would have made it that, but it would have made it a harder decision to make. I wasn't watching it live, so I don't remember. It was called a touchdown, correct? Do you remember? Did you watch it live?
I believe it was.
So if it was called a touchdown, that gives it a little more chance that it could have stood if he was wearing white cleats.
Yeah.
But A great game. I think we all figured that'd be a good game, a good rematch. Um, Xavier Worthy, the Chiefs giving Mahomes another speedy receiver similar to Tyreek Hill, a little small, but man, he was fast on that football field.
Yeah, you just have to wonder what that's going to do to Travis Kelsey's targets. When you add more of those guys, there's only so many plays, so many passes you can spread around. It seems like to me, I mean, Kelsey might be that odd man out outside of getting in when you get into the red zone.
I'd like to think Kelsey's okay with that. I don't know how much he was really considering retirement last year. I know once his brother retired, there was a lot of slew around. If they win the Super Bowl, they're going to retire. They also said he was going to propose to Taylor Swift, but um, he's obviously getting up there in age. He's coming back to try to do a three-peat, and the number of targets and probably the number of catches will obviously go down, it seems. But, I think he's, not being the number one target for Mahomes might help him out get open a little bit more since, I mean, he's getting older. It's a tough position to play,
Yeah.
a rough position to play. And I think he'll make more meaningful catches, maybe get that catches per or yards per catch up a little bit. Um, I think he's still going to be up there. I don't know that he has a big ego about that. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But I think he should just kind of be happy to be the second target. Kind of hopefully, I wouldn't say coast, but hopefully just enjoy the ride and maybe what experts are saying going to be the first three-peat in NFL history.
Yeah, and I think this could be the team to do it. But this Ravens team they just faced is going to be a tough opponent in the playoffs.
Yeah, look at Lamar Jackson. I mean, 122 rushing yards, not a big surprise, but it used to be a while, or, not too long ago where we thought like he really can't pass though. You're just saying, but 273 yards passing. That's finding Isaiah Likely, which I get a tight end, probably a lot of check downs, but I mean it's working for him. So yeah, this Ravens team's not going to go away, and what seems like a really, really packed AFC as usual for the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
Eagles beat the Packers 34-29 in Brazil last night. Gave you a couple of updates on that when we were doing Friday Night Football. Big story from here is the Jordan Love injury. Love getting an MRI on his knee and ankle today after leaving the game with 12 seconds left. This is kind of personal to me because I have Love on one of my fantasy teams. So, yeah, that's not great, but you were talking about, I did not see the graphic replay of Jordan Love's injury. You were talking about it pre-show.
Yeah, it looks pretty bad. You can see where two defenders hit him, one rolls into the back or side of his knee, and you instantly see the pop. Like it just bent, like you could see that moment when it just snapped and that knee, separated. Yeah, I would think this is going to be a very, MCL type season ending injury is what I would predict from the video. I can't imagine that's not a serious injury.
They always say wait for the MRI, but I don't think we've ever gotten an MRI where it's like, oh no, he's fine.
I mean, how many times can you see a guy now, like we've seen so many of the ACL injuries and where those injuries occur? Like you see it, oh, that's ACL.
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much know. They just wait for MRI to confirm, but maybe the MRI tells you,
I mean, how devastating
sprain or something, and like he's out 8 weeks or something instead of the full season. But it's not looking good for Jordan Love and the Packers at this time, who a lot of people were picking the Packers to make it out of the NFC this year. Kind of wide open. You have the 49ers, but we saw last year they kind of had some kryptonite. Who knows with the Cowboys? And really I feel like it's the Cowboys, Lions, Packers, and Niners are the teams that pick one. Any of them can make it out of the NFC, but it seems like the Packers this may not be that year.
No, it's pretty devastating for them.
Yeah. And the last play of the game too, or pretty much the last play. They had 12 seconds left. it's just something. I mean, a close game. They had, I guess, had a chance to win it at the end, just losing. I mean, they only lost about 5 points. So uh, obviously the game wasn't over. It just you hate to see it at all. But for sure, week one, for sure, the last play of the game, because you think, you know, it'd have been better if they would have turned it over or something to play before, so you never get into the
Yeah.
situation. But
So if this is serious for the Packers, they're stuck with Sean Clifford, a 5th round pick in the 2023 draft.
I mean, Tom Brady, right? No, you never know. I mean, you never know. That would be even more devastating for Love. But it was a similar situation. Drew Bledsoe goes down.
Yeah.
But
You didn't
yeah,
know
we're not.
anything about Tom Brady.
Hey, I mean, we can pull this clip back in 8 weeks. I'm just going to go ahead and say it just in case. I'm not necessarily calling it, but you never know what'll happen. Hurts has a good game. He did throw 2 interceptions, but 278 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. AJ Brown, 5 receptions, 119 yards and a touchdown. The surprise, I think, of the game was Saquon Barkley, 109 yards with 2 touchdowns. He looked really good, and
this has got to be sickening for that Giants organization.
Yeah,
for not sealing the deal here. And if you've seen Hard Knocks, you saw
I
behind
was
the
about to bring
scenes
that up. Yeah,
of the GM, the way he handled the situation, and they didn't want to put a number on him. They wanted him to go test the market. I think they were hoping that he would come back and the market would say, hey, you're not worth what you want. And it happened to be that he got what he wanted. And, the Giants were basically had the deal worked out where go figure out what your market is, come back and at least give us the last option to pick you. That's a bad way.
Hey, like, I want to marry you. I want to party right now. So why don't you just go? You go have fun, and then we'll come back and do this. And they never come back.
They were hoping for a good deal, and man, it could bite them in the butt. I mean, we've seen this time and time again. You get older players, veteran players that seem like, hey, maybe they're on the back end of their career. You make a move to another team, and it just gives them for at least a season, a little rejuvenation. And I would say, Saquon's probably going to have a really good season here.
Yeah, outside of, I mean, not that we were surprised that he could perform in a game like this, but more so, he still could get injured. That's kind of been his thing. He's never had an issue being good. It was just staying on the field, and yeah, it doesn't look good for the Giants. And something similar we'll talk about here in a little bit is Dak and the Cowboys. If the deal doesn't get done here pretty soon, Dak's just, why would Dak want to do a deal after the season starts? He's like, I might as well play out the season and hopefully, give the Cowboys a chance.
Have another MVP caliber season. And
and you might as well. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I'm going to go talk to other teams just to see what my market value, if your contract's up anyways, outside, if he has a good season, there's no way that his number goes down at all. So, Saquon, they had that risk of going out. Let's see, maybe it's not what you think it is, but there's no way that if Dak Prescott has another similar type season, that his number, like, somebody's not going to pay him around 70 million or something. I'm not saying he won't take less to stay with Dallas, but right now, if his number is about 60 million,
and I would look at a team after this season, look at a team like the Giants. They could really solidify that quarterback position.
They could move on.
It would actually be a really good fit in New York.
They could move on from Jones this year too.
And you have, we stay in New York, the Jets. What's the future of Aaron Rodgers after this season? He's getting up there. Like, who knows if he just doesn't have a good season, if he calls it quits. Yeah, I think there's a lot of landing spots potentially for Dak. The Cowboys really should, but seeing how they handled the CD situation.
Let's talk Cowboys now. Cowboys Browns on Sunday. The Cowboys right now are still trying to get a deal done with Dak Prescott before kickoff. Like, that's kind of the deadline. If they don't get it before, and I agree. If it doesn't get done before kickoff, it only favors Dak to not do a deal. It's like, dude, you don't get a deal done, I'm a free agent. Whether I want to stay with the Cowboys or not, that's fine. But you might as well just play it out, because there's no reason outside of him signing a deal and then getting hurt. Sure, that helps him. But honestly, if you sign a deal and then go out and have an MVP season and your number just goes up, I mean, we've seen it. time and time again with the Cowboys waiting too long. You should be extending these players. Hopefully, this offseason, they just go ahead and extend Micah. Don't even deal with this. You get burned and pay more to CD Lamb. You get burned and pay more to Zeke after he's, if that deal would have got extended the year before, then you kind of doesn't tail off while he's getting paid so much money. You kind of spread it out a little bit. And it looks, I mean, the first contract with Dak, the first new contract with Dak, same deal. They could have got him for 32. They waited. His number went up to 40. And now similar, they're going to cave. I mean, you talk about caving for CD and Zeke. Can you imagine if they go next offseason and Dak says my number's 70 million, the Raiders or the Giants, are offering me this? You think Jerry doesn't put 70 million down a year for whatever? 2 years, 3 years. I think the Cowboys want 4 years. I think that's kind of where, I don't think the money's an issue right now. It's more like Dak just wants a shorter contract to be able to cash out again before he gets too old. But can you imagine, it's not, okay, CD, hold out. It's Dak saying you either have a quarterback or you're rolling out with Jordan Love and Cooper Rush. Jordan Love.
Going back to Micah that you mentioned 5 minutes ago. He's going to command the top dollar defender. I don't see him trying to get a deal done. I think he knows the MO of the Cowboys, and I think he's going to know, hey, I'm just going to hold out. It's going to cost them more money. They're not, the Cowboys are not going to go out and offer him fair market value right off the bat. That's not Jerry's MO. He's never done that. He's going to make you hold out. He has this sick thought in his head that these players just want to be Cowboys for life. So he has, like you said, he's never done that with any other player. He always pays too much. I don't see any difference here. And if I'm Dak Prescott, I'm with you. I don't sign. I don't do it. There's no downside for Dak is I hedge my bets on myself. I go out and I perform. Even if it's not an MVP caliber season, he's still going to command more money than where he sits now. And I think if he wanted to test the market, there's a lot of teams that could really use a solid quarterback.
And not only getting it done early for the purpose of saving money, but you get to push a lot of that money off, where like Mahomes signs a $500 million deal, $50 million a year, but his cap number was low for like the first few years because they were able to compound it. Like when you sign a guy that doesn't have a contract, CeeDee Lamb had 1 year left, but when you sign a guy, if you're going to sign Dak, you are able to, with the signing bonus, kind of finagle that money where that first year is not a big hit, but that second year, unless you're restructuring and pushing money down the road, like CeeDee Lamb next year, his number is going to be 30 something million. As opposed to if you would have signed him last year, you could have raised his number a little bit off his rookie contract, but not too high, and push it down where a few years down the road is when you get to the 30 million. It's gonna be similar with, I know Dak's already making 40 million. It's not like it's saving a ton of money, but I mean, $20 million is a lot. You can only do so much when you go from no contract to, okay, here's your contract, signing bonus. Maybe you get down to $45-50 million that first year cap hit. But then, I mean, you already have dead money with that. If he walks away, it's not like pay me 70 million and keep your quarterback. It's pay me 70 million, keep your quarterback, or I walk away, Trey Lance, Cooper Rush. Also, you have a 40 or $50 million dead cap hit as well. So good luck going to try to get a quarterback. Unless you're drafting, which, I mean, if the Cowboys have a good season or Dak's commanding the 70 million or 65 million, whatever it comes out to, they're not going to have a very good draft pick. And this year's, I don't have them off the top of my head, quarterbacks coming out. That may rise. The talent may rise throughout the college football year. We'll have to see, but it's not this is not the year you want to be drafting your quarterback, I don't think.
No, it's gonna cost teams to get quarterbacks this year. They're gonna move within the league, and it's gonna definitely cost them. But I think this one perspective that you don't really look at is the opportunity for backups and the depth in the league to have opportunities when you have a weaker draft class.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't want to get in a situation where you're now going bargain hunting for players like Kenny Pickett, or similar to what you do with Trey Lance. Just get top drafted guys who just didn't work out, which in this day and age, there's a chance you find something because they just don't give quarterbacks enough time, I don't think, to develop. I mean, they're getting rid of them after a couple of years. I think Josh Rosen, I think something could have happened with him if they stuck with him and not moved on after a year. But you don't want to see them do something similar where they either go with Trey Lance, which you'd have to re-sign him too. He's on a contract year, or go get something similar to that. But good luck doing that, or going to get a veteran quarterback when you have that $40-50 million dead cap hit.
Yeah.
Speaking of rookie quarterbacks, we have Caleb Williams, Titans versus Bears. We'll see how that holds out. Not bad so far. It is just preseason, but Bears are finished 4-0 in the preseason. Caleb Williams looked all right. I personally think bust is one of those words I think we throw out there liberally, like we do with elite when we're talking quarterbacks, but a lot of hype on him, and I don't necessarily think he has to be a Hall of Famer. It's Hall of Famer bust, literally, necessarily, but I don't think he's going to be that great of a quarterback, that great of a career. I don't think there was a lot that he showed in college. I mean, I thought a lot of disappointment in college, but we'll get to see Titans, Bears. I think will be a pretty good matchup. You have your 1-year sophomore quarterback versus rookie quarterback. A lot of it's becoming a young man's league.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll move on. A couple more sophomore quarterbacks who I was trying to find this before the show. Texans versus Colts. You had CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson's rookies from last year. I know Anthony Richardson missed most of the season. CJ Stroud, I know, missed one of the games versus the Colts. I believe he did. And I don't think they've faced off yet. Maybe, unless they played in the first couple of weeks. But either way, CJ Stroud, obviously a great rookie season last year. Anthony Richardson, a lot of potential. Didn't get to see too much of him last year. I think that's going to be a game you want to keep your eye on for possibly, divisional game, possibly, for the next 10 years. These could be like rivals going back and forth from the same draft class, which seems like it's going to be a pretty good draft class from last year or a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
We talked Cowboys and Browns already. And the final game of week 1, we talked about a little bit. Jets, 49ers, Aaron Rodgers returned on Monday Night Football. That's somewhere where we're going to see whether Aaron Rodgers has a good season or a bad season. I guess at his age, retirement's kind of always up in the air. And it's just kind of about his motivations. If he has a bad season or gets injured again, I don't know that means he's retiring. In his mind as an athlete, he might no, I can't go out that way. I have to, put together a good season. Or he might have a good season and think, okay, that's perfect, let me retire. Or, hey, I still got it, let's keep going. But the Jets are definitely going to be an interesting team because I could see them doing pretty well and, sneaking in to the playoffs. Pretty decent defense. Never count them out with Aaron Rodgers. We'll just see how he.
Well, they're a relatively young team,
yeah,
outside of Aaron Rodgers, and it's always good to have that guy that commands the team, have some veteran leadership. But with a young team, I mean, a well-coached team, I could see them definitely making some big splashes this season if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy.
And that's the thing. Like preseason, I think for players like Aaron Rodgers is kind of a waste of time. You didn't see Dak play. Like they're going to be ready. It's really to find out, spots 45 through 60, who, how they're going to fall on the roster. Are they going to make the team? But it is kind of concerning when you have not seen Aaron Rodgers in an actual regulated game since tearing his Achilles. I guess it was opening Monday Night Football last year against the Bills.
Yeah, 12 months ago.
Yeah, so at his age, it's kind of like if he was a young guy, you'd be like, okay, I think he's good to go. But we'll have to see. I mean, I'm sure he's in shape and he's keeping up, and the Jets are, feel confident. But I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on this game just because, it's a good matchup, 49ers and Jets with Aaron Rodgers, Monday Night Football. But there's going to be a lot of intrigue to see how Aaron Rodgers looks first game back.
Yeah.
And to see if, he can still do it at age, was he 40 now?
I think so, yeah. One of the big games this week that I really is one I'm going to pay attention to. And I've mentioned this a few times already this season. I don't know if on this show specifically, but this Broncos Seahawks game I think could turn out to be a good matchup. But especially just following the Broncos this year, and see what Bo Nix can do.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of hype on Bo Nix. I think he could come out and be the best quarterback in this draft class. Just from what we saw in the preseason, he went in, he earned that spot. He wasn't just given that. He wasn't thrust into there. He actually earned that starting position. And being under Sean Payton, we see how he, very similar type quarterback, I feel like, to Drew Brees. I think Sean Payton can really develop this kid into something.
Yeah, we saw him early years of Romo. He was kind of the guy developing Romo before anybody had any. We were talking about Chad Hutchinson and Vinny Testaverde, and those were the quarterbacks on the Cowboys in that era. I don't know the exact years, but we're talking about baseball players being the next quarterback for the Cowboys, and Sean Payton's the one that says, "Hey, let's go get Romo," and him and Parcells kind of can work that out, and then he goes and takes who NFL and especially the San Diego Chargers thought this guy's okay, but I don't think it's gonna, I don't think he's too short. Like he didn't have the build. I don't think he's gonna make it. And then Sean Payton takes him and kind of molds him into that Hall of Fame quarterback. And it's interesting to see what he'll do. I think that's what Sean Payton kind of needs because it didn't work out with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson kind of the half of his career anyways, but a lot of butting heads because Russell Wilson kind of had that complex. You saw him show up first day of training camp a couple of years ago when he got signed that huge contract with the Broncos, where he just parked straight up right out of the stadium in his Hummer or something like Jeep, something like that. Where he's like, "Yeah, I'm the guy here," and Sean Payton's like, "No, I'm the guy here." And I think this is kind of what Sean Payton needs because you haven't really seen him with with a veteran quarterback outside of one that he's brought up, and they kind of understand each other, and the quarterback kind of is in it. Like Drew Brees went into New Orleans, not as the very talented Pro Bowl caliber quarterback yet, and really I guess submitting to Sean Payton. So I think this is how it needs to work. You can't just, like we've known, there's personalities and egos involved. You can't just take like say Bill Belichick and Aaron Rodgers, or you just can't mold these guys together. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
For lots of reasons, but I think that's one where Sean Payton, just give him a quarterback to mold and see. And I think Bo Nix is an experienced quarterback. It seemed like he was in college forever. You've seen him succeed in the SEC. You've seen him succeed in the Pac-12, be in multiple Heisman races, and he obviously has all the tools and the mechanics and the experience. There's no reason that it shouldn't work with Bo Nix, right? I mean, he's got everything you want. We talked about high profile quarterbacks and how often they work or not for various reasons, whether they have too much talent around them that they just don't grow. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case with Bo Nix. I mean, he did have a lot of talent. He did play for powerhouse programs at Oregon and Auburn, but they were kind of I would say second tier teams, but they weren't like the best teams. I know Oregon almost made the playoff last year, but I think they're set up for success in Denver, whether or not their roster holds up. But I think at quarterback and their head coach, I think they have the right people in place. I'm not gonna say, obviously AFC is very, very highly contended. In that division, you have, the Chargers, maybe Harbaugh can kind of regenerate Justin Herbert. The Raiders, I mean, you have an opportunity there. And obviously you have the Chiefs in that same division, but I think it's a very top heavy AFC.
Yeah.
But you can make the wild card. I know you have the AFC North, and they could have three teams make those fill up those wild card spots. But yeah, I think the Broncos have, a puncher's chance to jump in there as a wild card this year.
Yeah, for sure.
We've been saying it for months. Don't bet with your gut. Check out Betalytics and get help making your picks. Betalytics uses AI algorithms to run the numbers and make the most accurate picks possible. Use promo code PEAK1 for 25% off when you sign up today. Go to Betalytics.com to start betting smarter, and keep up with us on social media at PEAK1 Sports. We'll have a free prop bet for y'all to check out. Just watch out for that today. Jumping into some college football, a couple of games that already played. Last night, you had SMU falling to BYU 18-15. A little disappointing to me. I mean, that's a local game here in Dallas. It wasn't in Dallas, but I think it was at BYU, but local team in Dallas. And I think SMU has a shot to contend for the ACC. I think it's very wide open. Florida State's kind of railing. Georgia Tech looks pretty good, but I think SMU has a shot in their first season to actually make some noise in the ACC.
Yeah, a tough loss last night, but all in all, I think
BYU's a
you're right.
good team. Should be.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think you're right. I think SMU is back.
Yeah, fine. I think you can finally say they've recovered from the death penalty.
Yeah.
From winning the Hawaii Bowl was like their first bowl win. It maybe 10 years ago. But they fought in the Conference USA, AAC, all the way. Now they're in a power 4 conference now, but they're in a big boy conference in the ACC, and it's kind of weird, but I guess you still have Cal and Stanford in the ACC, so SMU being there's not that weird. And another game, Duke over Northwestern 26-20 in double overtime last night. Only reason I want to bring this up was this game was at Northwestern's temporary field while their stadium's getting worked on. Northwestern Medicine Field at Martin Stadium. We've seen this. It's like the lakeside stadium. You can play with it on College Football 25. It has a whopping 11,000 seating capacity. Like 11,096. It's kind of ridiculous. It's gonna be interesting when I don't know what teams they host in conference play, but like,
yeah,
you're in the Big Ten. I mean, I know it's temporary, but still,
when you compare them to a Neyland Stadium in Tennessee or Kyle Field in College Station, that are both over 100,000, that are 10 times that.
I know Northwestern's kind of. I mean, and we talked about the renderings of their new stadium here, before on this show, but I know you're kind of not up to par with the other teams in the Big Ten anyways. You've had a couple of decent years, but like if Ohio State comes into here, Michigan comes into the stadium, it's like, look at Vanderbilt. They're remodeling their stadium, but they're still playing in it. You can just see a construction site on there. But, is what it is. Kind of a cool aesthetic to watch, a little weird, this lakeside stadium, but let's go with it. A close matchup over Duke in double overtime. So it'd be pretty cool if Northwestern could get some big upsets in that stadium that we see for years to come. And people, 10 years from now, they don't really remember, wondering, why are they playing Michigan there or whatever?
Yeah.
It'd be pretty. 11,000. I mean, man, there are some high school stadiums in Texas that just, 60,000. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Okay, today we have a few good matchups. Still early in the season, so we have some of those, cupcake schedule type games. But for the first time ever in a regular season game, Texas and Michigan will play. I believe the last time they played was the Rose Bowl in like 2004. It was the year before Texas won the championship. They beat Michigan in the Rose Bowl before in 2004. So you have number 3 Texas, number 10 Michigan at the Big House in Ann Arbor. Longhorns are 7-point road favorites. You think they're going to cover? It's hard. I mean, it's hard playing there. Michigan's still a great. Like, I know they've taken a step back from their national championship year last year, but I mean, you're still kind of wondering, is Texas back? They had a really good win. I mean, if
this was last year's Michigan team, I would say absolutely not, and probably that spread wouldn't be.
They wouldn't be favored. No, they wouldn't be. I'm surprised they're favored.
I think they do cover it, but I think this is going to be a tight back and forth game down to the wire. I think this may be the match that Texas sees this season that they really go into it concerned about.
Yeah, and it's hard. I mean, you say they won last year. I mean, they made the playoff last year, but there were some close games that Texas should have won by a few more, by a couple of more touchdowns. A lot of close games. I think it's Texas's to lose. It seems very early in the season, but it seems like they're the more talented team, because there was a lot of people picking them against Colorado State to maybe win by a touchdown or two, and they go blow them out. I think it's up to Texas not to let that crowd stay in the game. I think if it's a close game, Michigan will come out on top.
Yeah.
I think there's an opportunity where Texas should at least stay ahead most of the game. Don't let it go back and forth too much and let Michigan keep the lead. It's going to be very difficult. Michigan's a big boy program, and they, I know they've lost the new head coach, lost some talent to the NFL. But biggest stadium in the United States, they're at the Big House, and
if
it's not going to be easy for them to play.
If Quinn Ewers struggles, is Coach Sark quick to pull the trigger and play Arch? Like, is that where we're at with this? I mean, you've got two phenomenal quarterbacks on this roster. The moment that Ewers starts to struggle, do you think that he's going to be quick to pull the trigger?
He knows their personalities better. I think it matters if you do that, and as the head coach that, hey, there's no way Ewers is going to come back from this mentally. I have no clue. I don't know him mentally if that's like, if they have a good relationship where it's like, hey, I'm just going to throw him in and see how it works. It's just not working for you today. If some guys, I don't think that can work. Although if he struggles in Michigan, if you have the balls, so to say, to put in Ewers with, Manning with very little experience right now in that situation. But if they are struggling, Manning goes in and he ends up leading them to a win. Then I think Manning gets the starting job. Like, I don't think there's any way Ewers continues.
Was Coach Sarkisian at Alabama when they made the switch to put Tua in? Was that in the championship? That was the national championship
game. Yeah, I want to say
Coach Sark there.
I want to say he was, because that wasn't that long ago. He might not have been. I don't know. I know, when you have, talk about the Patriots and their dynasty, for the last 15 years, Alabama the similar way. You're not retaining coordinators very long because they're getting opportunities when you're winning. I would have to go back and look.
Would he take a? I mean, because I don't see any other team in college football that has this similar situation where they don't have a solidified ride or die quarterback. This is the one situation where you've got two guys that could play anywhere in the country on any team. And I mean, in my eyes, honestly, it's tight with Georgia. I mean, Texas really, to me, is the number 1-2 team. Like they're there. Yeah. They have the roster to compete with anyone in the country.
I think Ewers being the top high school prospect, like in the last however many years, being the number one, I'm going to say disappointing, because I think most of it's he's had injuries and missed some, and you just don't come back the same from injuries. It has been disappointing. I don't necessarily, because he's had some really good games, and maybe they beat Alabama a couple of years ago. I think they do if he doesn't get hurt in that game, because they go back and forth with a backup quarterback. But Sark did say before the season that to win a national championship, we're going to need both quarterbacks. And I don't know what he was alluding to, where we might have injury concerns, or, I think Manning is as close to getting in the game, not necessarily replacing Ewers as much as just jumping in, and he has a role in this in each game week to week. I think he has more of a game plan than any other backup quarterback on any power.
How tough is that? Because, for a defense and a guy like me that was a defensive guy, like, it's really tough to game plan against one quarterback, much less two. And these guys don't play the same game. They're different quarterbacks. So game plan against these guys, you could have two completely different packages set in the game as an offensive coordinator for each quarterback and keep the defense really guessing if that's the direction they would be willing to go.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the kind of age-old deal with a two-quarterback system because, I mean, yeah, the problem is you're not getting the same amount of reps because you need that, both quarterbacks to practice and have that, um, have the practice with first and second team or whatever. And you kind of have to get a groove, but yeah, there is a disadvantage to the defense. That's why you've seen so often that a rookie comes in, a quarterback gets injured, whatever. You've seen it with the Cowboys a lot, on the wrong end of that spectrum, where it's not that the rookie's that good or the back or quarterback that's that good. It's that, hey, you didn't prep for this guy. You
Yeah.
didn't have any idea. And I wouldn't be surprised to know that, Michigan or any other team kind of look at, they at least take a look at some of what Manning does. Maybe towards the end of some practices where they say, okay, this is what, just in case, uh, this might happen, but you still have very limited uh, film on him as well. I mean, you saw him
Yeah.
play a little bit last year with some success, and then definitely some success against Colorado State. So that's an interesting question if they put Manning in, and that's, I guess it just depends. If Ewers just doesn't have it, it's still a close game, Um, that's a very slippery slope because there's very few situations you could make that call without being able to. It's like you can't go back,
Yeah.
unless maybe he knows his quarterbacks and they have trust in each other and like, hey, we're a team. But it's hard to do that because then you go to social media and see, if Ewers goes out, Manning goes in and succeeds, and they put Ewers back in. It's like a lose-lose situation unless
Yeah.
he can go out and just ball and win. Okay, some other games. We have Texas A&M hosting McNeese. We saw a little bit of McNeese because we covered Tarleton State. We saw that game. No, no shy. Yeah, nobody wants to put A&M on upset alert, right?
No, absolutely not. I mean,
Yeah, this is
last week they didn't end up edging out Notre Dame, but that
a
was a really
very
good
good
Notre
game.
Dame team. I mean, it was Texas A&M's defense was bend and don't break, and they damn near accomplished that. I mean, they held them to the bitter end. Really, in that matchup to me last week with Notre Dame, uh, Texas A&M just got beat at the quarterback position. You can't
Yeah.
win a game with the quarterback play they had last week. I still think Wigman's got it for them. He's got to play better. He's got to have, which that's the first game he's had back, in a year. He was injured last year, season-ending injury. So, he's going to have to play better for this team to succeed.
And I don't necessarily think that Notre Dame outplayed A&M in that game. I think, it was very close, and then Notre Dame just got the momentum, near the
Yeah.
end where A&M just couldn't put together the drives at the end, and that's what happens. People, especially analytical people, say momentum doesn't exist. And maybe it's all in the players' heads that you just kind of. But I mean, that's what momentum is, right? It's all in your heads. Number 15, Oklahoma versus Houston. It's a good matchup, although Oklahoma's not in the Big 12 anymore. But Houston now is. Interesting matchup. They got a lot. They never were in the same conference at the same time. Houston ousted when the Southwest Conference blew up, and then joining with the Big 8 to form the Big 12. But
Yeah.
still a good regional game. Lots of, we're here at DFW, lots of Oklahoma fans, lots of Houston fans. Definitely have to, give a shout
I
out
think
to
this
the
would be
game.
a good matchup. I mean, this could be one of those games that it could absolutely become an upset.
Yeah, we're still trying to see what Oklahoma is. They're ranked 15. I think it could go either way. Is this an on year or off year for Oklahoma? They, obviously looking good uh the last couple of weeks, but Houston's kind of up there too. Like, are they going to be contenders in the Big 12? Like, obviously, this is, a good matchup for both schools to see where they're at. Can Houston compete with Oklahoma? Can Oklahoma do what they need to do and win? Probably. I don't know what the spread is, but they should, I think, should win this game by multiple scores.
Yeah.
And, a good ruler stick. What am I thinking? Measuring stick matchup for both schools. Just because, again, we're in DFW, TCU versus LIU. I didn't even look up what LIU stood for. Down
Liberty?
here for TC, is it Liberty? No, not Liberty University. LIU. I didn't even look it up, but
Landon, do you know what that is? LIU?
But I know TCU still having, another down year from making the national championship a couple of years ago. Where TCU's in trouble if they lose this game. I think they should win by multiple scores. You're in a power conference. You need to take care of business. I look at TCU as one of the power schools. Since they came into the Big 12, most years they're better than not. And then Baylor, after beating Tarleton last week, they travel to Utah to play number 11 Utah. A good measuring stick game as well, because I don't think Baylor's that great this year, but let's see if they can compete against a top school on the road and see where they're at, because the Big 12 is kind of wide open. I don't know. We're talking Houston, we're talking TCU. We saw BYU beat SMU. I don't know who's the favorite right now in the Big 12. It's
Colorado.
I think Utah might be. Colorado could be one. Of course, Baylor, Utah, that's a Big 12 game now. Utah, if they're still going to compete, they've been, up there beating on USC for the last few years. Utah, Colorado, I think Houston can make a name for themselves. Obviously, if Baylor can take down Utah or compete, they're going to show that they can compete in this Big 12. A very different Big 12 now that you don't have Texas and Oklahoma, but you're adding Utah, Arizona State. It's a little weird for some of this conference realignment to keep up, because I'd forgotten for a second that Utah was in the Big 12. A lot of random matchups. You have as far east as West Virginia and UCF, to all the way to Utah, Arizona State, and BYU. BYU's that's a good rivalry game in the Big 12 now, is Utah BYU.
Back to LIU, just because it was intriguing me. It's Long Island University.
Oh my gosh.
They are the Sharks, and they play in a 6,000 seat stadium.
Is it it's gotta be a TCU, right? This has got to be the one TCU pays to be there.
Yes, it's in Fort Worth. Yeah.
In Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So TCU, I think you should win by 20 points. I know you're not ranked right now. After last year, I know it was disappointing. I don't follow TCU as closely as some schools. So, but come on. Make this like 30-0 or 40-10, something like that. That should be an easy win for you guys.
Yeah.
Not quite as big as the Texas A&M McNeese game should be, but TCU needs to come back, make this Big 12. I mean, Big 12 needs to step up after losing Texas, Oklahoma. I think they have a lot of they're a little more even keeled now with a lot of their talent. I mean, they were definitely top heavy with Texas, Oklahoma, especially after Texas A&M left so many years ago.
Yeah.
Now you have a lot of good schools, but I think they're on the precipice of not being I don't know if they'll take away whatever the Power 4 title is. I mean, it's not really an official title, I guess, but I think that they have the potential. Most of their teams have every few years will crack the top 10. We've seen it with TCU. Obviously, Utah's number 11. We've seen it with Baylor. We've seen it with BYU. We've seen it with UCF. Just went undefeated 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
They have a lot of those schools that every few years, and I think the Big 12 needs maybe this year, maybe next year to have a year where a lot of those schools are on, and maybe you get like 4 or 5 in the top 15 or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Real quick, Landen, let's do baseball. I don't know what you have prepared, but let's see if a Shohei Ohtani update. He's 45 homers, 46 stolen bases. It seems like he is outside of injury or something ridiculous. He's a shoo-in to get the 50-50 season.
I mean, there's no way that he doesn't. They have a lot of games left.
Yeah. Like I said, it had to be injury or something ridiculous. I mean, he's already the first ever to do a 46, 45 or 45, 45 home run stolen base. But I'm kind of, with the Rangers kind of reeling off a little bit, I'm kind of cheering for this to see a 50-50 season.
Yeah, he'd be the first, most likely the first primary DH to
I
go
think he'd be the
50-50.
first ever 50 home run, 50 stolen base, right? Am I wrong with that about that?
I don't think first ever,
Okay, maybe I'm off on that.
but I know that he'd be the first primary DH.
Yeah, and we already know the first Dodger because he was the first Dodger to get 40-40.
Yeah.
Great. Go ahead.
He's going to set a lot of Dodger records, I think. I don't think there's many that are like untouchable for him. I feel like to a normal person, they're probably untouchable, but he'll probably end up getting like the strikeout record, maybe even the home run record, depending on how many he can hit a year.
Yeah, go ahead and get the 50-50 this year, and the next year go back in the starting rotation. I know Clayton Kershaw's, he's probably going to retire. I don't know. He's just having a rough year, a lot of injuries, and I thought the Dodgers don't have a good rotation, but I think Ohtani, he's probably not going to be the starter on opening days. They're not going to just throw him out there, but definitely has the potential to kind of compete for that ace spot on this team. I guess we'll have to see how he does, after Tommy John. Some guys can pitch better, some guys not so much. We saw Kumar Rocker getting Tommy John, and then, or maybe it wasn't Tommy John, just shoulder surgery maybe. But all of a sudden Kumar Rocker is like the top pitching prospect for the Rangers. So Ohtani might come back and still, compete for that 1, 2, 3 spot in the rotation.
Yeah. You hope that he can come and pitch well in spring training and be ready for opening day for them.
Yeah, do you think even if he's not one of your rotational guys, just as a reliever, be able to play in the field, hit, and then maybe just being a relief guy just in situations? That's...
So I know this probably would be, good thought on being a reliever, because I've seen it in minor league. He can for sure do it in major leagues. If he's on the field playing, let's say he's playing first or not, whatever, he's in the outfield, he can come in, like I know he has to face 3 batters or whatever. He can come in, relief pitch, go back out in the outfield, and then come back and relief pitch again later on, as long as he stays in the game, right? They're just swapping him. Or can he not do that? I've seen it in minor leagues where they would let a guy come face a batter. And I know if you leave the field, if you get substituted, you can't come back in. But I've seen them go from, I think it was a third baseman. They would swap them. Like whoever was pitching, also it was the 2 relievers. They both played third and they swapped them. And then they swapped them back after that because they just wanted the righty-lefty match or whatever. They swapped them back. I know you have to face 3 batters as in relief in the majors. Can he do that? I know he could go pitch and then come back, but can he go back in and pitch interchangeable?
I'm not sure.
I don't
know that he would play a position.
At most levels, you can't toe the mound again, but
okay.
That
was a few years ago too. Yeah, well, I know he could go play right field, go pitch, and I believe go back out in right field. Yeah, but I don't know about come back and pitch, because I know he's played right field. But yeah, he may just be like a DH and pitcher for the rest of his career. That might be just to protect him, because he wasn't. He's okay, I guess, in right field, but it's not like he's Gold Glove caliber anymore. So you probably just want to keep him as DH and then just pitch every 5 days.
Honestly, would you think he would care to just DH? That's what guys get paid to do, to get paid to hit baseball.
Right. Okay, technically he's getting paid $2 million a year with all that deferred money. I get it, but he's getting paid a lot of money just to DH.
Yeah,
like he's eventually going to get all. Was he get paid $60 million a year? But technically, just $2 million. It's all deferred.
Yeah, well, his New Balance deal, all his
he makes more money gambling.
And that's most of these guys, right? They're making more money in incentive deals than they are in their contracts.
He's probably making more money gambling, but until his guy got caught.
That's true. Was making more money.
Was. Well, I know. I think they were throwing away a lot of money. Honestly, he was probably throwing a lot of bets too, just in case it all came down. And you'd be like, look, he wasn't even a good gambler.
Yeah.
But no, allegedly, or not allegedly. I guess they're not even charging him for that. But dude, just great. It's ridiculous how good. I mean, I know we talked about it. I asked if he's the best ever, and Landen, you're like, I don't know if he's the best now. It's obviously this year the best hitter, but it's still just ridiculous to see somebody who so far has been, a top 10 pitcher, you could safely say most years, and then the last couple of years being, one of the best hitters, at least in the NL now. I know you say him and Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge obviously winning the home run battle. But this is definitely a generational player. What Mike Trout probably should have been outside of playing. It's good that Ohtani went and got with a power team to, like, now we can watch him in the playoffs, and I'm hoping that one day we could, not that I'm a Dodgers fan, but you could see them in the World Series or in the playoffs, where you could see him pitch and hit and have that kind of impact in October baseball. But great stuff, guys. Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadoff. However you're tuning in, YouTube, later on podcast platforms, whatever. Hit that like button if you liked our show. If not, hit it twice, and don't forget to subscribe. With Tony and Landen, I'm Ashton. Y'all have a great weekend.